I'm from Sacramento and this happened about 3 years ago. I'm only sharing this now because I finally feel comfortable talking about it. I used to have a pretty brutal commute for work. I'd have to drive about 45 minutes each way on the highway. The traffic was always terrible, especially during rush hour. I'd usually leave work around 5:30 and wouldn't get home until close to 7. The highway I took had a carpool lane that ran the entire stretch of my commute. I'd always see people flying by in that lane while I was stuck in traffic, and it drove me crazy. I'm not going to lie, I was tempted to use it illegally more than once. One day I was running late leaving work and the traffic was even worse than usual. I'd been sitting in the same spot for 15 minutes, barely moving. I was stressed because I had plans that evening and was going to be late. That's when I saw her. There was a woman standing on the side of the highway near the on-ramp, holding a sign that said East Bay, which was the direction I was heading. She looked normal enough, maybe in her 30s. She was wearing jeans and a gray sweater. Nothing about her seemed off. I normally would never pick up a hitchhiker, but something made me pull over. Maybe it was because I could use the carpool lane with a passenger. I know that sounds selfish, but traffic was really bad, and I was desperate. She got in the car and thanked me. Her voice was soft and polite. I asked her where she was headed, and she said anywhere east was fine. She'd find her way from wherever I dropped her off. I told her I could take her pretty far since I was going all the way across the bay. She smiled and thanked me again. We merged into the carpool lane and I immediately felt relieved. We were moving at a steady 65 miles per hour while the other lanes were at a standstill. I tried making small talk, but she kept her answers short. She seemed tired or maybe just not interested in talking. After about 10 minutes of driving, I noticed something strange. Every time I looked in my rearview mirror to change lanes or check traffic, her reflection wasn't quite right. It was like there was a slight delay, like she'd move her head, but her reflection would move a second later. I thought maybe I was just tired. I'd been working long hours that week and hadn't been sleeping great. I kept driving and tried to ignore it. Then she asked me a question that made my blood run cold. She asked me if I'd ever seen someone die. Not like if I'd been to a funeral or known someone who passed away. She specifically asked if I'd ever watched someone die in front of me. I told her no and asked why she was asking something like that. She didn't answer. She just stared out the window. The sun was starting to set and the light was doing weird things to the shadows in the car. A few minutes later, she asked another question. She asked if I believed in second chances. I said I guessed so, depending on the situation. She nodded slowly and said that was good because she didn't get one. I was starting to feel really uncomfortable. I glanced over at her and noticed her sweater had what looked like dark stains on it. They definitely weren't there when she got in the car. Or maybe I just hadn't noticed them. I asked her if she was okay and if she needed help. She turned to look at me, and her eyes were completely bloodshot, like every blood vessel had burst. She smiled and said she was fine. Better than fine, actually. That's when I noticed we'd been driving for almost 30 minutes, and the traffic in the other lanes hadn't moved at all. Not an inch. The cars were still in the exact same positions they'd been in when we first entered the carpool lane. That wasn't possible. I looked at my speedometer, and we were going 70 now, even though I hadn't sped up. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. I wanted to pull over, but there was nowhere to go. The carpool lane was separated by a concrete barrier. She leaned over and pointed at a car in the lane next to us. Inside was a family, parents in the front and 2 kids in the back. She said they looked happy. Then she asked me if I thought they knew how lucky they were. I didn't know what to say. I just kept driving and praying for an exit. She kept talking though. She told me she'd been driving on this same highway 3 years ago. She'd been in a hurry to get home. She was supposed to meet her sister for dinner. She said she'd been texting while driving. Just for a second. She looked down at her phone to read a message, and when she looked up, a truck had stopped in front of her. She didn't have time to brake. My heart was pounding now. I asked her what happened. She said she died instantly. The impact killed her before she even knew what was happening. I told her that wasn't funny and I wanted her out of my car. She ignored me and kept staring out the window. She said she'd been standing on that same spot on the highway for 3 years trying to get home, trying to make it to that dinner with her sister. I looked in my rearview mirror again, and this time there was no reflection of her at all. The passenger seat looked empty in the mirror, even though I could clearly see her sitting right next to me. I started screaming at her to get out. She finally turned to look at me and her face was wrong. It was like looking at a photograph that had been torn and badly taped back together. She smiled again and said I'd given her a second chance. Then she pointed ahead, and I saw we were coming up on a stopped truck in our lane, one of those highway maintenance vehicles with the flashing lights. We were going 75 miles per hour now, and we were maybe 200 feet away from it. I slammed on the brakes, but nothing happened. The car wasn't responding. I yanked the steering wheel trying to swerve, but it was locked in place. I could hear her laughing next to me. At the last possible second, the car jerked hard to the right, and we swerved back into the regular lanes. I don't know how we didn't hit anything. The car came to a stop on the shoulder, and I was shaking so badly I couldn't move. I turned to look at the passenger seat, and she was gone. The door was still closed and locked from the inside. She had just vanished. I sat there for probably 20 minutes before I could drive again. When I finally got home, I looked up accidents on that highway. I found a news article from 3 years earlier about a woman who died in a collision with a semi-truck. Her name was Sarah Mitchell, and her picture was in the article. It was the woman who'd been in my car. I take a different route to work now. It adds an extra 30 minutes to my commute, but I don't care. I'll never drive on that highway again, and I'll never pick up another hitchhiker no matter how bad the traffic is. Sometimes late at night when I'm lying in bed, I think about what she said, about second chances. I wonder if I gave her one, or if she took mine. This is going to sound absolutely insane, but I swear everything I'm about to tell you is true. This happened 6 months ago, and I still don't have an explanation for it. I live in Austin, Texas, and work a pretty standard office job. Nothing exciting. I have the same routine every day. Wake up at 7, get to the office by 8:30, work until 5, go home. Very predictable and boring. One Wednesday morning I was getting ready for work when my phone rang. I didn't recognize the number, but it had an Austin area code, so I figured it might be something work-related. I answered it, but no one was there. Just silence. After a few seconds, I hung up. About an hour later, I was at my desk and I got a notification that I had a new voicemail. I figured it was from that call earlier. I put in my headphones and listened to it. What I heard made absolutely no sense. It was my own voice. I was leaving myself a voicemail. But I definitely hadn't called my own number, and the message wasn't something I'd ever said. The voicemail went like this. Hey, it's me. Listen, you need to call in sick today. Don't go to the office. I'm serious. Something's going to happen and you need to stay home. Trust me on this. Don't ask questions, just call in sick right now. I listened to it 3 times in a row. It sounded exactly like me. Same voice, same speech patterns, everything. But I had no memory of leaving that message. I checked my call log, and there was no record of me calling my own number. I thought maybe someone was pranking me. Maybe they'd use some kind of AI voice generator or something. But it sounded too perfect. Every little inflection and the way I clear my throat when I'm nervous. It was exact. I was already at work though, and I felt fine. I decided it had to be some kind of weird spam call and tried to ignore it. But it kept bothering me all morning. By lunch, I'd listened to it probably 20 times. Around 2 in the afternoon, I got another call from the same unknown number. This time, I let it go to voicemail immediately. 5 minutes later, I got the notification. The new voicemail was more urgent. Same voice. My voice. It said, "Why are you still there? I told you to leave. You need to get out of the building now. I'm not joking around. Leave through the back exit and go straight to your car. Do it right now." My hands were shaking as I listened. Part of me wanted to laugh at how ridiculous this was, but another part of me was genuinely scared. I looked around the office and everything seemed completely normal. People were working at their desks. Someone was heating up lunch in the break room microwave. I decided to go home anyway. I told my boss I wasn't feeling well, which wasn't really a lie at that point. I grabbed my stuff and headed for the parking garage. I didn't use the back exit though. I went out the front like I always did. As I was walking to my car, I got another call. Same number. I answered it this time. Before I could say anything, I heard my own voice screaming at me. "Why didn't you use the back exit? Go back inside right now and use the back stairs. Go!" Then the line went dead. I stood there in the parking garage for a full minute, just staring at my phone. This was getting too weird. I got in my car and drove home. The rest of the day was quiet. No more calls. I tried calling that number back several times, but it always went straight to a generic voicemail box. That evening, I almost convinced myself it was all some elaborate prank. The next morning, I woke up to 37 missed calls from various numbers, all from between 3 and 4 a.m. I had been sleeping and my phone was on silent, so I hadn't heard any of them. There were also 17 new voicemails. I sat on my bed and started listening to them. They were all from me, different versions of me. Some were calm and some were frantic, but they all said the same basic thing. I needed to stop trying to figure out what was happening. I needed to delete all the voicemails and forget about everything. One of them was especially disturbing. The voice sounded exactly like me, but exhausted like I hadn't slept in days. It said, "Listen carefully. You're going to want answers, but you can't look for them. Every time you try to investigate this, it gets worse." I made that mistake multiple times. Just let it go. Delete everything and move on with your life, please. Another one was different. This version of me sounded angry. It said I'd already ruined everything by not listening, that I'd made the wrong choices and now it was too late to fix things. I didn't understand what any of this meant. Wrong choices about what? I hadn't done anything except go home from work. That's when I noticed something on my bedroom floor. There was an envelope that hadn't been there when I went to sleep. It was a standard white envelope with nothing written on it. I picked it up and opened it. Inside was a single piece of paper with a printed message. "You were supposed to use the back exit. Now you're stuck in the loop too. I'm sorry." Below that was a date and time. The date was yesterday. The time was 2:47 p.m. That was almost exactly when I'd been walking through the parking garage. I still have that piece of paper. I've kept all the voicemails too, even though the one version of me told me to delete them. I stopped getting calls after that day, but I feel like something is fundamentally different now. Sometimes I'll be going about my day and I'll have this overwhelming sense of déjà vu, like I've lived the exact same moment before. It happens at least once a week. Last Tuesday I could have sworn I'd already lived that entire day. Every conversation, every email I sent, every song on the radio. All of it felt like a repeat. I've tried to research if anyone else has experienced something like this, but I haven't found anything. I'm scared to talk to anyone about it because they'll think I'm losing my mind. Maybe I am. The worst part is sometimes late at night I'll catch myself thinking about calling my own number, just to see what happens, just to see if I answer. I haven't done it yet, but the urge is getting stronger. I don't know what I'm stuck in or how to get out. All I know is that I should have used the back exit that day. Whatever choice I made in that parking garage changed something. And now I can't tell if I'm living my life forward or if I'm just repeating the same days over and over. If you ever get a voicemail from yourself telling you to do something specific, don't ignore it. I don't know what happens if you follow the instructions, but it has to be better than this. I really hope it's better than this. Before I get into this, I need you to understand that I'm not the kind of person who believes in supernatural stuff. I've always been a skeptic. There's usually a logical explanation for everything if you look hard enough. But what happened to me last year has challenged everything I thought I knew about reality. I'm from Seattle, and I work in tech. About 14 months ago, my company started beta testing this new security feature for our office building. It was a facial recognition system that would automatically unlock doors for employees. Pretty standard stuff that lots of companies use now. The system was supposed to recognize your face and log when you entered and exited the building. They sold it to us as a convenience thing so we wouldn't need to carry key cards anymore. Most people were excited about it. I was indifferent, but I went along with it. During the first week, they had us go through the setup process. You'd stand in front of a camera and it would scan your face from multiple angles. The whole thing took maybe 5 minutes. I remember the technician telling me to smile for one of the scans, and I thought that was weird, but I did it anyway. Everything worked fine for the first month. I'd walk up to the door and it would unlock automatically. Super convenient. I didn't think anything of it. Then one morning I came in early around 6:30. The office was basically empty. I walked up to the main entrance and waited for the door to unlock like it always did. But this time when I looked at the small screen next to the door, I saw something that made me stop cold. The screen showed the facial recognition scan like normal, but the face it had captured wasn't quite right. It was my face, but I wasn't smiling in real life. On the screen though, the version of me was smiling. Not a big smile, just a slight upturn of the lips. But I definitely wasn't doing that. I touched my face to make sure. My expression was neutral. I looked back at the screen and the smile was still there. Then the door unlocked and the screen went back to its default display. I stood there for a minute trying to figure out what I'd just seen. I convinced myself it was probably a glitch. Maybe the system had pulled up an old scan from when they'd asked me to smile during setup. That made sense. I didn't think about it again until 3 days later. I was leaving work around 7 in the evening. As I walked out, I glanced at the exit screen out of curiosity. Same thing. My face on the screen was smiling even though I wasn't. This time I actually stopped and stared at it. The smile looked different than before. It was wider, more pronounced. I watched as the scan completed and the door unlocked. I walked out, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Over the next week, I started paying more attention to the screens. Every single time I entered or exited the building, my face on the screen was smiling. And the smile seemed to be getting bigger each time. By the end of that week, the version of me on the screen was showing teeth. I mentioned it to a coworker named David. He thought I was messing with him. He said the system just captures whatever expression you're making when you walk up. I told him I definitely wasn't smiling and he suggested maybe I was doing it subconsciously. That annoyed me because I knew for a fact I wasn't. To prove it to him, I asked him to watch me the next morning when I came in. We met at the entrance at 8 a.m. and I walked up to the door with a completely neutral expression. David was standing off to the side, watching my actual face. The door unlocked and I turned to him and asked if I'd been smiling. He said no. Then I pointed at the screen before it went back to the default display. His face went pale. The version of me on the screen had been grinning. Not just a smile anymore, but a full grin. David said maybe it was using an old photo or the system was bugged. He suggested I report it to IT. So I did. I sent an email to the tech team explaining what was happening and asking if they could look into it. 2 days later, I got a response from the IT department. They said they'd reviewed my scan logs and everything appeared normal. They sent me screenshots of my entries and exits from the past week. In every single screenshot, my face had a neutral expression. No smiling at all. I was confused. I knew what I'd seen. David had seen it too. I forwarded the email to David and asked him if he was seeing the same screenshots I was. He called me immediately and said the screenshots they sent me showed my face smiling in every single one. We were looking at the same email but seeing completely different images. That didn't make any sense. I took a photo of my computer screen showing the neutral expressions and sent it to him. He took a photo of his screen showing the smiling faces and sent it to me. When I opened his photo on my phone, I saw the neutral expressions. When he opened my photo, he saw the smiles. We were both looking at the same data, but perceiving it differently. David said this was getting too weird, and he didn't want to be involved anymore. I decided to test something. That evening when I left work, I set up my phone to record video as I walked through the exit. I wanted to capture what the screen showed. I walked up to the door holding my phone at an angle where it could see both my actual face and the screen. When I got home, I watched the video. In the recording, my real face was neutral the entire time. But on the screen, my face was smiling so wide it almost didn't look human anymore. The expression was wrong. Too wide. Too many teeth showing. It looked like someone had stretched a smile across my face using photo editing software. I felt sick watching it. I sent the video to the IT department and demanded they remove me from the system. They responded within an hour saying they'd deactivated my access and I could go back to using a keycard. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. The next morning I came in and used my keycard like they'd said. The door unlocked fine, but as I walked past the facial recognition screen, I glanced at it out of habit. My face was on the screen even though I hadn't triggered the system, and it was smiling that same stretched, inhuman smile. The screen wasn't supposed to activate unless someone walked directly up to it. I was at least 6 feet away. But there I was on the screen grinning at myself. I started avoiding looking at the screen altogether. But over the next few days, other people started mentioning something weird to me. Multiple coworkers said I'd been smiling at them in the hallways or break room, but when they'd smile back, I'd look confused. They asked if I was okay or if something was bothering me. I told them I hadn't been smiling at anyone. They insisted I had. One person even said it was creepy because I'd been staring at them with a huge smile for like 30 seconds without blinking. That's when I realized what was happening. Other people were seeing the smile, not just me on the screens but in real life. Somehow the expression from the facial recognition system was bleeding through into how people perceived my actual face. I started testing it. I'd stand in front of my bathroom mirror at home with a neutral expression. In the mirror, I looked normal. Then I'd take a selfie with my phone. In the photo, I was smiling. I'd ask my roommate what expression I was making and he'd say I was smiling. But in the mirror, I could see I wasn't. It got worse. The smile that people saw started appearing more frequently. I'd be in a meeting and someone would ask why I was smiling about something serious. I'd be talking to my girlfriend and she'd ask why I was grinning while telling her about a problem at work. I went back to the office and demanded they completely remove all my data from the facial recognition system. They said they'd already done that. I asked them to check again. They pulled up the system logs and showed me that my profile had been deleted 3 weeks ago. But I was still appearing on the screens. They brought me down to the main entrance and had me walk by the sensor. My face appeared on the screen smiling, even though according to their system, I didn't exist in the database anymore. The technician who'd originally set up the system said he'd never seen anything like this. He said it was like the system had created a copy of me that it couldn't delete. He tried manually removing every trace of my data, but nothing worked. I kept appearing on the screens. Eventually, I quit that job. I couldn't take it anymore. People looking at me and seeing something I wasn't doing. The worst part was I started seeing the smile too. Not in mirrors, but in reflections. In windows. In my phone screen when it was turned off. I'd catch glimpses of myself and the smile would be there. 3 months ago, I went to see a therapist because I thought maybe I was having some kind of breakdown. During our first session, she asked me why I was smiling so much if I was struggling with anxiety and depression. I told her I wasn't smiling. She looked at me like I was delusional. I pulled out my phone and took a selfie right there in her office. I showed her the photo where I was clearly smiling. Then I asked her to look at my actual face and tell me what expression I was making. She stared at me for a long moment and said I was smiling. But she also said there was something wrong with the smile. She said it didn't match my eyes. She recommended I see a neurologist. She thought maybe I had some kind of nerve issue that was causing involuntary facial movements that I couldn't feel. I went to 3 different doctors. They all said the same thing. Physically, there was nothing wrong with me, but they could all see the smile. Last month, I was walking downtown and I passed by a store window. I saw my reflection and stopped dead. The smile was so wide now that it literally stretched from ear to ear. My mouth was open and I could see all my teeth. It didn't look like a human expression anymore. It looked like something wearing my face as a mask. A woman walking by saw me staring at my reflection and asked if I was okay. I turned to look at her and she screamed. She actually screamed and ran away from me. Other people on the street started staring. A few of them pulled out their phones. I ran home and haven't left my apartment since. I work remotely now and keep my camera off during video calls. I've covered all the mirrors in my apartment. I don't look at reflective surfaces anymore, but I can still feel it. The smile. It's like something has attached itself to my face and I can't get it off. Sometimes late at night I'll touch my face and I swear I can feel my mouth stretched wide, even though I know my expression is neutral. I've tried researching if anyone else has experienced anything like this, but I can't find anything. I don't know if it was the facial recognition system that did this, or if it just revealed something that was always there. The company that made the security system went out of business 6 months ago. Their website is down and I can't find any way to contact them. It's like they disappeared completely. I got an email last week from my old workplace. They said the facial recognition system had been removed from the building after multiple complaints from employees. Apparently, I wasn't the only one having problems with it. They didn't say what kind of problems the others were experiencing. Sometimes I wonder if there are other people out there who can't stop smiling either. People who had their faces scanned and something went wrong. People who are trapped behind an expression they can't control while everyone around them sees something they're not doing. If that company ever comes back, or if that system gets used anywhere else, I hope someone stops it. I hope they destroy every piece of data they collected. Because whatever that system was doing, it wasn't just recognizing faces. It was changing them. I still don't look in mirrors. I'm too afraid of what I'll see. And I definitely don't smile anymore. Or at least I try not to. But according to everyone else, I haven't stopped smiling since the day they scanned my face. Sometimes I wonder if I ever will.